Welcome into TFW Live. We're the best kept secret in fantasy football, where we keep that week one feeling going all year long. This is episode 319, where we're going to be talking all things waiver wire for week 3 with John Daigle from 444 Fantasy. So make sure you are tuned in and got your questions ready for tonight. It's going to be a good one. Support for today's show, though, is brought to you by our patrons who have supported the show throughout its history and continue to do so. For our patrons, we're going to be giving away a Joe Burrow 2020 Panini Chronicles number 19 rookie card ISA 10. Be sure to join the Patreon community. That link is in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, patreon.com/The Fantasy Whispers. That'll be coming out this weekend. You got Johnny excited in the background. So without further ado, I'll bring in Johnny and my guy Donnie here that are with me tonight. Austin, we miss you. We love you. He'll be back this week. He's working on the side there. But before we do get all the way started, I want to say a few words about Donnie's future mother-in-law, Tracy. She's going to be starting her treatment today for another battle with cancer. And so we have Tracy in our thoughts and our hearts, and we're wishing her the best and a healthy and speedy recovery. So, Tracy, we got you. And a big welcome to Whisper Nation, everybody in the chat right now. We appreciate you guys watching. Donnie will be in here. I know a ton of you guys are coming in here throughout the show. And, of course, gratitude to our members on YouTube that support through a monthly subscription. Here we go. Gus Ramos, Pizza Belly, Don Caples, Bailey Ziegler, Kevin Davey, Nick, Brett Zabo, John Credit, Eric Lorenzen, Donnie Tubbs, Jersey J, and Hanimal. You want to join that membership right there? Just click join next to the video right now. You get all sorts of perks, and we appreciate you for doing so. Helps us kind of keep the likes on. If you love fantasy football, want to join a community where you know you belong, hit subscribe, though, on the YouTube channel. We're trying to get just one more subscriber, just one more on this stream. Could be you. And if you're new, let us know where you're streaming from. We'd love to shout you out right here on the show. As mentioned, though, we are joined by a very special guest, our friend and colleague in the fantasy football space, John Daigle from 444 Fantasy. John, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Let's go.
I am here hanging out with my friends, rooting and cheering on Tracy as well. You also called this show the best kept secret in fantasy. And although that is true, I will also say, and I hope you don't mind me saying this because it happened behind the scenes, but do you, before every show begins, Johnny, do you start off telling your friends you love them? Because I kind of dig that. I think that's a very important thing to do. But no one else heard it. But before we started, you said, going live, love you guys. What a tremendous thing. So I support your decision to do that.
Oh, appreciate that. I can't take full credit for that though. That is actually shout out to Austin, who is not.
Yeah, Austin's not on the show tonight, but he definitely ingrained that in us. We're best friends. We want to be able to come on here, tell each other we love each other, and start the show off right. So now, no matter what we deal with beforehand, we want to do that. So shout out to Austin for that. We appreciate you calling that out, though.
Yeah,
John as well. And I love that you said friends, because since the expo, I can officially say we are friends now. We've shared beers like you're having a beer off camera.
We not only share beers, we shared bank accounts, because
that's true.
I went from New York to LA, New York for the Flex Draft with Jake Seeley and all those guys, those great guys in the industry, and then to LA for a friend's wedding. And then literally just that happened overnight within 24 hours. And then I went to Canton afterwards to spend the week there for the expo. And of course, it wasn't New York or LA. My bank account got locked. It was late at night in Canton trying to have drinks with you. And then you swooped in. So thank you for the help. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah.
I got you back the next day. So that's good. But nonetheless, we are not only friends. Yes, we've also had some personal experiences together.
Absolutely. Daigle, before we start the show off, everybody obviously wants to get into waivers, but you do a specific waiver column. Tell the people where they can find that and what that entails.
At 44.com, the waiver wire weekly, but I basically, at my 3 years with NBC, bolstered it up to try to help everyone, because I also play in those high stakes FFPC leagues and FFC leagues that are 10-player benches and 20-round leagues. And so you have lots of room to just shift and churn players in the back end. But at the same time, the industry is so big, everyone loves playing fantasy football and their local offices, for instance, with their friends, because of the shallow leagues on Yahoo, on Sleeper, ESPN, wherever else. And so it's important to just note, like, oh, hey, Garrett Wilson, for example, is not available in all leagues. Like, I think he's actually 61% rostered on Sleeper, but for Yahoo, he's 23% rostered. And also, I know for a fact he was dropped in a lot of FFPC high stakes leagues as well. So it wasn't just shallow leagues making this mistake. Some of the grinders actually just dropped him in week one, thinking he wouldn't get there anyways, since he did run the 4th most routes on the team in week 1. So everyone makes mistakes, and I think the waiver column should be for everyone. So anyone from Garrett Wilson to Jake Ferguson is mentioned this week and mentioned weekly. The problem, or not the problem, because it gets done. The hard part is basically turning it around by Monday afternoon, because the body is there for everyone at 44.com every Monday by 4 p.m. Eastern. And then I add in the notes by Monday night, because I try to make sure I have in all player usage notes there. So I would just like to think it's a different waiver wire column than you may have read elsewhere.
Yeah, and even when you were at NBC Sports Edge, I enjoyed that part of it. You also put in, not enough waiver columns do this, but the drop list. You're talking about players that people need to drop, and I think that's such an important part of it, because I don't need to just know. Everybody knows who to pick up, theoretically. I need to know if you think that person that I'm going to go pick that person up can be dropped for, or another can be dropped for that person. So that's the important stuff. Before we dive all the way in, though, Daigle, I want to ask you if you have a player that's either completely, you were completely off on, or has shocked you positively or negatively so far this season.
Negatively, I guess it would be Darnell Mooney. He's pretty much the player everyone's talking about. And I get asked a lot so far, are you giving up on this individual? And the answer is no, not yet. We're at the time of the year where someone like me struggles. A lot of us struggle, because sometimes the best answer is it's not going to be like that, right? We can't depend on the Bears averaging 14 pass attempts per game. It's not going to be like that. Maybe it's 20, which would also be bad, but it's not going to be 14. 14 per game is actually the 4th fewest since the NFL merger. That would be historically bad. We don't think that's going to happen. And so now we get the Texans coming up, who have allowed the 4th most receiving yards to opposing wideouts in particular. We have faith for Darnell Mooney. And so he's still a wide receiver 3 in flex, in my opinion. And if we don't get that, then I'll change my opinion. But right now, we are still at the part of the season where I don't think it's going to be that bad. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to have 50 pass attempts per game. Let's just all wait. Let's logically shift through these things. And so that's what makes this part of the year so tough.
John, I do have a question before we do get in. What is this year's championship after 2 weeks, right? We're 2 weeks in. Last week, we all thought it was Saquon. If you had Saquon on your team, he was the championship fantasy. He's going to win you fantasy championships. Who, after 2 weeks now, would you say is that player?
It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everyone asked who is Cooper Kupp this year, and a lot of us picked, including myself, Juju Smith-Schuster. But we're now seeing that Juju Smith-Schuster, although he is what we predicted in being an every down slot receiver with no competition whatsoever. Sky Moore has run the fewest routes on that team. We're not worried about Sky Moore. But the fact is also he's still Juju Smith-Schuster, and he can't separate. Like, he struggled against the Chargers in the middle of the field. They shut down the middle of the field. He was nowhere to be seen. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, not only is he delivering his ceiling, maybe not even his ceiling, he's delivering the production we saw at the end of the year, right? 32% and 35% target share to open the season. He now has 6 consecutive games dating back to last year with a touchdown. But also, they got him involved on end arounds this past game. He had a 40-plus yard run on one of those end arounds. So now the Lions are seeing his ceiling is even higher than top 10 receiver. So we're getting everything unlocked. He's the league winning player because in drafting him in the 5th, 6th round, he was going around, remember, Adam Thielen, Brendan Ayuk, Drake London, that range, and drafting him over those players, although they've been okay, Drake London in particular, you still won your league most likely because it allowed you to stack all these other options, especially like if you went 0 RB at the end. Maybe you still got Saquon Barkley, so your team is great. But if you went 0 RB, there's a real chance you have Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown as your wide receiver 3, and that's just like an unbeatable trio right now.
Yeah, that's just smashing. We were getting some questions Sunday lineup, and after he did what he did, like I had some belief in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I didn't draft him nearly enough, but we got some questions in the lineup show, and then when we went off the lineup show for a little bit, I just said, if you got to ask me about Amon-Ra St. Brown anymore, we can't ask anymore. He's an auto start. Yeah, it's like you can't get out of it.
And I don't know if anyone here plays DFS, but he's actually Cooper Kupp in that form as well, because last year they struggled, DraftKings and FanDuel, to price up Cooper Kupp to $10K every single week. And that's why the first 6 games, I was a losing player the first 6 weeks in DFS because I was trying to fade the public when the real response was you just lock him in. It doesn't matter because he's not priced accordingly. That's what's happening with Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. He's just not, he's a 9K player being priced around 6 and 7K.
And even the underdog over was like 60.5. I smashed that in a couple parlays or a couple 5-leg deals. So that's the key.
Because remember, last year he didn't play a single game over 80% of snaps that T.J. Hawkinson was healthy. And that was the offseason argument. Was that he only did this because T.J. Hawkinson. What we're seeing now is his depth of target overlaps and cancels out Hawkinson. Why would you ever throw to Hawkinson when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown getting open? And not only that, but delivering yak as well. And so that's what we're seeing in the making, is that actually Amon-Ra St. Brown cancels T.J. Hawkinson totally.
Well, I thought that was kind of interesting. I was thinking about that when we were watching Hard Knocks, and he was not in it at all. And so I was like, does that mean that they might be limiting what his upside this year? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get any bump, that's for sure, and he's not producing any kind of production. That's either. Okay. Well, we will move on here into the waivers, but before we do, I want to let you guys know, I see your questions. We love the questions. In order to not only respect Daigle's time, but also cover some of the top guys for today's show, we're going to be saving the Q&A for the closing segment. With that being said, if you absolutely need something answered, hit that super chat, and we will not only give you that whisper woo, but we'll skip the line. You'll skip the line and get that question answered immediately. But without further ado, let's dive into the waivers, Daigle. The top 3 added running backs over on Sleeper, as we see it here, are Daryl Williams, Raheem Mostert, and Jordan Mason. So we kind of see these guys being added in droves here. When I show you these 3, does this kind of line up with the way you're thinking? And what is your overall take on kind of the running back position on waivers this week?
Well, I go on my spiel. Can you tell me how highly rostered Eno Benjamin is? And he did become a popular end-of-draft pick, but I'm assuming Daryl Williams is rostered because no one could roster Eno Benjamin. Having said that, if both are available on waivers, Daryl Williams actually is my pick. And I said this on
the mentor.
Daryl the Mentor Williams, who mentored Clyde Edwards-Helaire at LSU. And honestly, he's had more success than Clyde Edwards-Helaire so far in his career. But I said this on the Most Accurate Podcast for 4 for 4 when I do the Monday night halftime, every Monday night live at halftime waiver show. And that is that I initially thought Eno Benjamin was the pick, not only from training camp reports, but also because in week 1, we saw blowout game script, down 3 touchdowns. They took James Conner on the field in a game Daryl Williams was active and instead put Eno Benjamin out there for 22 snaps. Okay. That means Eno Benjamin is the guy we want because that's the backup they want to see. But I think I may have read that narrative wrong because when James Conner exited in the second half, This past game, Daryl Williams outcarried Benjamin 8-5, and most importantly, handled both backfield touches inside the 10-yard line. And although Benjamin ran more routes, 27-24, Daryl Williams actually outsnapped Benjamin on 3rd and 4th down, 11-2. And so that tells me he has the significantly larger role if James Conner were to miss time. Thus, I now lean Daryl Williams as well over Eno.
Have you heard anything more on the ankle? Because now we're hearing that it's not considered a long-term deal, but why keep him out of that game? I mean, I guess they were getting blown out to start, so maybe they're thinking they're being a little conservative. But anybody heard anything else on this?
I have not heard anything beyond that. I just reference it as we now know who should be stashed because James Conner, who has never been healthy yet for a season, we now know he's already dealt with this ankle injury in week 2. Thus, that's not really great. It's pretty foretelling of what will happen next throughout this season. So let's just try to be heady and be aware and ahead of everyone.
Yeah, I like that call. I think sorry, Donnie. When you're looking at the Cardinals coming into the season, they carried 5 running backs on their roster, which also was like already a little head scratching, right? Not to say that our depth wasn't at least intriguing or wouldn't come back to us. So maybe they thought that. But then hearing as well that Cliff Kingsbury came out and he was just like, hey, we kept that many because we want to try to keep James Conner healthy. That also raised concern to me. And then that was when we were talking before actually Sunday, Travis and I was just saying, like, I think Daryl is solely here just in case Conner goes down, and then they want to keep that 1-2 punch. They've always liked that. They never truly like going with one running back in the backfield.
So obviously you put so much in the article, John, about the, I'm sure you put your waiver budget amounts in there as well. I'm wondering, just between the two, what would be, if you don't mind talking about the waiver budget between Daryl Williams and Eno, what you'd be willing to spend on each of those guys?
And I honestly put it the same because I know how it differs. Also, Fab suggestions, I'm sure everyone is aware here, is tough because
anybody could do anything.
You're basically being asked, like, hey, answer correctly for 25 million leagues. And it's like, I can't do this. The number of people that are asking like the Fab suggestion on Tua and Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jimmy Garoppolo also for like 1 QB, 2 QB super flex. It's like, guys, it varies so much.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think now that we know it's short-term injury and we're just trying to be ahead, that means that I would think our opponents will not get into a bidding war for us. Thus, out of $100 Fab budget, I think 10 to 15 is honestly just fine, knowing that we are stashing this player for the rest of the season.
Nice.
Sounds.
And I just wanted to add on. I think you asked the rostered percentage. Eno's at 16% rostered compared to Williams at 10%.
Oh,
rostered.
so everyone instead went Daryl over Eno. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I agree. I think the upside of Eno doesn't change much at all if Conner goes down. But I think the upside of Williams greatly increases if Conner goes down. So I'm with you.
Well, we know that Williams is like comparable as a pass catcher. Like that's the bottom line. So it's not like Eno could just be the pass catcher, as John, you were pointing out in this game. We saw both of them working in on that. All right, so we'll move to the running backs that are being dropped right now and kind of ask, if you agree with some of these guys with that Arizona backfield. So we've got Rex Burkhead being dropped by over 75,000 leagues here. Jalen Warren is the next in line, and then Kenyon Drake. You're good to drop all these, John, in favor of the Arizona backs?
Yes, it depends what you need. Jalen Warren's also stashed, and on the waiver column at the bottom, I do keep what I call the contingency top 10 list because I know everyone wants to stash and maybe has room to stash. So I literally reshuffle it every single week about these are the best stashes. Like this is how I rank them 1 through 10. I basically write the column so I don't get asked questions. Like that's I include every
I should just go read it and then I'll stop asking you questions.
Every single thing you can imagine, I put in that column weekly.
Yeah.
And the contingency top 10 actually includes Jalen Warren. But Rex Burkhead, even though he got out carried 15-0 by Dameon Pierce, we know his range of outcomes, right? Because we saw him lead the team in touches in week 1. There's nothing telling us, even though we don't think they go back, there's nothing suggesting that they won't go right back to Rex Burkhead in week 3. One of those performances is an anomaly. Thus, I actually want to keep Rex Burkhead just in case because we don't know the blip on the radar.
it's legitimately what I told Donnie before we came on the air was Rex is going to be one of those guys that's on the ad trend and he's on the drop trend and he's on the ad trend and he's on the drop trend.
And unfortunately, he's the guy also that you can't start right because people probably started him in week 2 and that made sense in week 2 and they got the rug pulled out from under him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And
all right.
Jalen Warren, we know, strictly a stash. I don't if this were last year, I would put him higher in the contingency top 10. But I also think there are some major concerns about the Steelers offense. And we're seeing that in Najee Harris's usage as well, in that they are a faster, heavier passing team with running 3 wide receiver sets. You wouldn't know it because of his targets, but George Pickens is running as many routes as Deontay Johnson. But George Pickens only has 6 targets so far. So it's like there's only so many targets to go around now, and they didn't have that talent last year. They do now. They don't need to dump off targets underneath with a quarterback who is not throwing well, but he throws downfield. That's the issue here. And so Najee Harris's targets are decreasing naturally because it's not Ben Roethlisberger's dead arm throwing the ball anymore. And so Jalen Warren's also a stash, although not high priority. And then the third one, I think, was droppable. Kenyon Drake, right?
Yeah, Kenyon Drake.
Yeah,
I mean, J.K. Dobbins should be around soon, but even still.
They tried it in week 1. They gave him 65% of touches. In week 2, he played 29% of snaps. They literally just said, we can't do this. And honestly, when you watch him in week 1, that makes sense because no one was getting anywhere.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on here to the wide receivers in the top 3 that are added right now on Sleeper, and that's Noah Brown, the ancillary piece in Dallas, Garrett Wilson after his monster day the rookie had there, and Corey Davis, his teammate, who caught the touchdown as well. So, John, when I'm looking at this, I think Garrett Wilson is like really the no-brainer if he's available. But obviously, we talked about some leagues not available, some leagues like we cheated to get him in here. Usually we do the 50% mark here, but what a big day for Garrett Wilson. My concern, though, John, is that there's a cloud of Zach Wilson hanging over this. Like, even though he's demanding targets with Joe Flacco, even in week 1, as you said, he didn't run a ton of routes, but he demanded targets on the routes that he ran. And now we're going to get him in this week. He goes off. But what happens when Zach Wilson comes back to this offense, Daigle?
It's not even that, too. It's the fact that this team last year finished with the 7th fewest plays per game in the league, and they're suddenly the 2nd most plays per game through week 2. And again, like I said, Joe Flacco has thrown the ball at least 50 times in the first 2 games too. We don't think either of those things continue. So what happens not only when play volume decreases, given that it's everyone, it's the same situation, the same coaching staff, what happens when Zach Wilson returns too? There are a lot of looming question marks here. The good news is I think Garrett Wilson still has meat on the bone, and there are going to be ebbs and flows because Elijah Moore is still the very clear-cut number 1 receiver here, running a route on nearly every drop back this year, whereas Garrett Wilson, he ran around on 56% of dropbacks in week 1, up to 75% in week 2. So we're seeing it increase. But since we also know he left for a few plays in one of their possessions, like there's more room to grow. There's also more room to grow because he could just eat into Corey Davis's role in 2 wide sets. So that's why I like Garrett Wilson because of the ceiling. But overall, Corey Davis, we still expect to play in 3 wide sets because not only because Garrett Wilson in 2020 and 2021 in college played from both the slot and the boundary, but also because Braxton Berrios was the loser here. Braxton Berrios ran 4 routes on the team. He's the one that got one out totally to get Garrett Wilson more involved. So I still don't mind picking up Corey Davis in deeper leagues if that's what's necessary.
If you had to give us like one guy outside of this top 3 before we move to the droppable ones, one guy that's kind of like a deeper stash, but that you think has some big upside, you have a name for us?
It's Ashton Doolin.
Okay.
Ashton Doolin, we don't know Michael Pittman's the extent of his injury, and we think Alec Pierce will be back this week, but nonetheless, Ashton Doolin could very well just overthrow Alec Pierce. What we saw was not only Doolin lead the team in target 23% target share without Michael Pittman in week 2, but on the year, he's averaged a target on 32% of his routes run. Like he's actually earning targets when he's out there, whereas Paris Campbell currently leads the team in routes run and has a 7% target share. So what I would do if I was anyone, just drop Campbell or Pierce if you're in deeper leagues. I would drop them both for Ashton Doolin moving forward.
Sounds good. We'll go to
the Paris Campbell, number 1 on this list.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
Exactly. 29% rostered for Paris, 59% Cadarius Tony, and then Robbie Anderson was one of the top ads last week, similar to Rex Burkhead, one of the drops this week.
And shout out to the Podfather over the summer when he came on our show, and he was like beating the drum for Doolin. And so, man, I had him on so many slips. Underdog had him at 32.5 receiving yards. I was like, he's definitely going over that.
John, what do we do with Cadarius Tony here?
I am personally keeping, but I understand there's an internal struggle between everyone. I still want to believe in the talent, even though I don't really blame Daigle for playing his guys. Like, this is his team. He did not draft Tony. He just inherited him. I bet we see Kenny Golladay healthy scratched this week as well. And so if that's the case, I want to know if they purposely get Tony involved. But right now, I think 3 wide sets and they're comfortable with David Sills, Sterling Shepard, and
Richie James.
So really the question everyone is asking is, do I drop Cadarius Tony for Sterling Shepard outright? And I'm a big fan of Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard completed 4 games last year. He out-targeted Tony in every single one. I think he still has a ton of talent when he's healthy. But we've seen every time Tony gets the ball this year, he's only touched the ball 4 times. But when he gets the ball, he's still so explosive, and they bench him right after. So I'm hanging on one more week, given that his snaps increased. He played 28 snaps this past week, given that they increased from week 1. And then we'll see what happens. But if he's still their 4th or 5th wide receiver in the pecking order after this game, I'm more than willing to drop him after that.
I was riding the fist bump narrative last week because Daigle gave him a fist bump at practice. But I asked our mutual friend Dwayne McFarland, I said, look, am I dropping Tony for Garrett Wilson? Like, which is the guy here before the blowout game? And he said basically a coin toss. And now I'm thinking, obviously, we probably go get Wilson over Tony if that's what you're up to.
I wouldn't blame anyone, honestly. I'm not doing it personally, but make your own decisions. Ask yourself what you're comfortable with. I'm not doing it, but I don't think it's egregious whatsoever because Tony could very well just stay in that same exact role.
And
so
guys,
if you needed points like this week, would you drop Tony for Doolin?
If you need points, yes. Yes. Now, again, we don't know Pittman and Pierce's statuses, so that's kind of hanging in the balance. But since we all have to make these decisions by Tuesday, Wednesday night, I would have more confidence in Doolin delivering points than Tony.
And do we know a status on Wandel Robinson? I haven't heard any.
They said it wasn't long term, but he missed this game. That's the most I've heard about it.
His name hasn't come back up.
Guys, I know you're in the
nasty juke that last game, by the way. He didn't get much points or yards.
I mean, every time he touches the field, he looks great. So it's just like he doesn't get to the field.
He's looked amazing so far. It doesn't matter. He still only played 35 snaps this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you and all the comments and all the questions. We will get to them, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and get those questions in there. We'll get to them at the end. All right, we'll move on to the tight ends here quickly. I know we're running out of time here with you, John, so we'll go to the top 3 tight ends. We got Gerald Everett, Logan Thomas, and Irv Smith as the top 3 on Sleeper after Smith. I mean, I wouldn't be adding anybody who dropped that god-awful drop last night from Irv Smith, but no, I think he actually is worth it here. We finally fully recovered from the thumb. Looked like he ran a little bit more routes. What's your feel here, just overarching on the tight end crop this week here, Daigle?
And Johnny Munt outsnapped Irv Smith in week 1, 40-19. Last night, Irv Smith did deliver, but Johnny Munt was still involved. He started the game, as we saw, and then he only ran 10 fewer routes than Irv Smith. I don't think Irv Smith is in trustworthy territory just yet, but honestly, one more performance like that and I'll buy in for sure. So I definitely think he's worth picking up. I think he's a fringe tight end 1 right now. Gerald Everett is honestly one of only 8 tight ends we can trust right now. That's literally it with Zach Ertz, like rounding out that crew. Zach Ertz and Pat Freiermuth. Other than that, it's just a whack-a-mole.
We'll speak of the ones that we can't trust here. The drop list is getting pretty nasty here. Cole Kmet, Taysom Hill, and Albert O. You good with dropping all these guys for Gerald Everett and then, maybe a Dawson Knox or a Robert Tonyan, something like that? Where would you land on some of these guys here, John?
I would drop Dawson Knox for Gerald Everett. Yeah, I mean, Gerald Everett, it's between 3 players, Austin Eckler and Mike Williams, but Gerald Everett's tied for the team leading target share right now. A tight end doing that in the late round that he went was what we were looking for, and we're getting that. So there's no need to ignore it, especially with a top 5 quarterback like Justin Herbert. So definitely continuing to just start Gerald Everett every single week. And Albert O, it's a touch and go situation because of Greg Dulcich returning in week 5. Remember, when they put him on IR for the first 4 games, they even said he's likely to, he's ready to be at full health by week 3, essentially. So he's just going to come back at 100%. And so I think we see Albert O pretty much canceled out in a couple more games, and he really hasn't delivered in the first 2 games. So I'm definitely okay dropping him. I'm really just watching to see, because I know Tyler Conklin, I don't know where he's at right here on this list, but I know Tyler Conklin's available in a lot of leagues too.
Yeah, he was just
7% owned.
Yeah.
That to me, it's an awesome start. I mean, if we don't get a CJ Uzomah again, Tyler Conklin not only has a 20% target share to the first 2 games, but even this past week ran around 85% of Joe Flacco's dropbacks. They trust in him, and he's out there every single passing down. So I would play Conklin over a lot of those guys too.
Nice.
Yeah, 16 targets through 2 games. That's pretty meaty for a tight end. We like that.
Yeah.
Especially if he's been competing too before then. All right, so we'll move on lastly here to the quarterbacks here. And honestly, you kind of alluded to it. People are asking you all about Jimmy G and Tua here. Both of those top the list here. And our third is Carson Wentz, who's a little bit more roster than most.
Top
I guess
quarterback.
I guess looking at this with Tua, I've wanted forever to root for the guy, the player, John. I've wanted to root for him because I didn't know if he got the fair shake in Miami. Well, now he's got unlimited weapons. We saw his absolute ceiling, I believe, on Sunday. But where do you stand on Tua being able to do more boom games like this with those 2 wide receivers and with the way that they're passing in neutral and some of these game scripts? My
only concern is it's the Bills this week. You are getting into a bidding war on a lot of waiver wires. And again, like we're showing on Sleeper, not available in a majority of leagues, but still available in a lot of leagues. We've all had questions about it on social media. And now we're trying to get him at his peak with other people trying to bid on him at his peak when I don't think he's the best quarterback available. I still kind of view him as a fringe QB1, high end QB2 the rest of the year. Whatever happens against the Bills, it's his outlook is probably the median outcome between what we just saw and what happens in the Bills game. And there are reasons to believe in the Dolphins' overarching change in scheme. Last year, and 10 to 19 yards within the line of scrimmage, Tua completed 50% of his passes, whereas that's where Mike McDaniel's crossing routes shine, and this year he's completed 70% of those passes. Also last year, just 7.5% of his throws, 20-plus yards downfield. This year he's already at 12.5%, and this Dolphins team led the league in week 2 on pass play rate on early downs, first and second down, when within 1 score. They were an aggressive offense. And so there are reasons to believe into a long-term. But again, this week in particular, we're asking to get into a bidding war in one of the toughest matchups possible. So it's just rough this week, honestly. Yeah, and you'll be so, if you spend all the money and then he totally flops against Buffalo, you're going to be feeling really down on that. Yeah. And then Jimmy G, I really don't it must be super flex numbers here that he's getting added. I mean, he's never really been a fantasy QB1 for us, John. I mean, it's not somebody you'd be looking at even over Tua. You know who I was thinking he just barely missed the list here, but Marcus Mariota's kind of put up quietly some decent numbers. How do you feel about that Atlanta offense? A lot of weapons there, and they'll be down in a lot of games. So my only concern about Marcus Mariota is that so far, if you watch those games, he has 2 costly turnovers in the fourth quarter of both contests. 2 picks, 3 sacks, and 3 fumbles. And the Falcons are currently 0-2. They get the Seahawks this week, so we think we want to start him. I'm fine with that in deeper leagues. He has, 18 carries through 2 games, and so high upside there. But at the same time, after this game against Seahawks, they play the Browns, Bucks, and 49ers. That Atlanta offensive line is going to get thrashed. He doesn't stand a chance. And honestly, it'll probably lead to him getting benched, especially if they're just 0-6 through that stretch if they can't beat the Seahawks. So overall, yes, this week, Marcus Mariota is totally fine, but I'm really worried about his long-term outlook. I think he just gets scapegoated as the reason they're losing. Makes sense. On the QBs to drop here, we've got Matt Ryan, Justin Fields, and Jameis Winston as the top QBs to drop here. So we're good with drop. What do you think about Justin Fields? That's the big name here. You obviously alluded to it at the front here, Daigle, that we're not going to get the 18 passing attempts or 16 passing attempts. How are you feeling about Fields, though, long-term and rest of season? He's totaled 28 pass attempts through 2 games, and they're throwing on early downs at less than 40% of their plays. The scheme is not good. Their play calling inside the 10 is not good, and the volume is not good. Having said that, it was 2 tough matchups in a monsoon against the 49ers and the Packers, who historically just obsolete the Bears. They make them don't matter every single time they play. I want to see them in a terrific matchup against the Texans defense, and then we'll go from there. Honestly, though, I think Matt Ryan, although it's been bad, he's fumbled 5 times, but he's only lost 1 of them. I think Matt Ryan indoors against the Chiefs defense in an up-tempo matchup back at home. Remember, like they ran 90 plays in week 1, and then were asked to travel 90 plays on 70 minutes of football, and then we're asked to travel cross country in an early kickoff. It was kind of a losing effort before kickoff. Like that's why the Jaguars were a popular money line bet. It just made sense that the Colts get blown out, especially with injuries in their front 7 secondary and on offense and losing Michael Pittman. And so I do think it's somewhat of a bounce back game for the Colts here, and wouldn't mind streaming Matt Ryan over these other 2 if asked that.
All right. Sounds good. John, we appreciate your time here. We know we got to get you out of here. One more time, tell the people what you're working on next, not just the waiver column, but I know you got some more stuff coming out for DFS slate and stuff like that in the weekend. Let them know where they can find you and what you're working on.
44.com, promo code Daigle10 if interested. The package is pretty cheap too, and that'll still get you 10% off to read the waiver wire column and join the Discord, even when I'm not in there, even though I do jump in and answer waiver questions and go through DFS Q&As. Everyone in the 44 Discord is always talking football around the clock. It amazes me. I just come in and I see everyone chatting. So I still have no issues joining in with them, usually in the evenings when I have some free time between writing and recording. And yeah, that's where you can find everything, including all the DFS content we have there.
Love it.
Sounds awesome. Thanks so much, John. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you soon, my brother.
Thank you for having me on, guys, and love you all. Appreciate it.
Love you, man. Be good,
John. Appreciate you, man. Dude.
Well, we love John. Great guest every time. He was an excellent hangout at the expo. So if you see him at the expo next year, grab a beer with him. We'll be there as well, grabbing one as well. Yes. Look, we know you've been patiently waiting, Whisper Nation, with these questions. We are going to get into them right now. Franz says, would you trade Fournette for Debo, full point PPR in Dynasty? I would trade away Fournette for Debo. Yeah, I would do that deal.
100%. I would.
On a full point PPR. Dynasty, yes.
Yeah, in Dynasty. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let's see. Well, I know you meant to ask John, Jersey J, but we'll answer this for you. Would you start Goff over Wilson rest of the season? You know, Jersey J has been on a down kick on Russ Wilson, man.
On a bunch of players, dude.
Yeah, so let's answer this in Superflex. Donnie, are you okay benching Russell Wilson for Jared Goff?
Weekly matchups, definitely. I wouldn't say rest of the season I'm benching Russ every week. No, I would look up which defense they're running. I would keep them both on my roster for sure. Hopefully I have a third quarterback who's I'm starting every week, like a Lamar Jackson, which would be fantastic. But weekly matchups. Russ has looked like
Russ.
This is what he does.
He hasn't looked like Russ. I think it's a multitude of things. Nathaniel Hackett has not done anybody any favors in offense. The running backs, obviously, with the fumbles in the first game, kind of took possessions away. You have that going on. You also had him missing wide open throws. I agree. You have Judy and somebody else going down in that game to start. Surtain went down, so I guess it wasn't on offense. But Judy going down early in that game. So, I mean, there's some things at play here. But I'm not ready to say Goff rest of season over Russell Wilson, especially in that division. And Goff's going to be in shootouts, but Goff's also going to do stuff like he did in the first game where he completely airmails ball. I mean, he did it even in the second game. Missed Shark on like 3 different throws. I don't know that he's going to always be able to come through, even if the game script is great for Goff.
And this is what Russ does, though. Like Russ will sit out half the season. Is like
first half or second half.
Yeah, it's always one of the, so it clearly. I mean, it looks like it's.
And we have to remember, guys. Yeah, well, and I wouldn't doubt that because what's happening? Brand new team. Brand new coaching staff. That coach is a first-time play caller. He's a first-time head coach. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Maybe they transfer play calling, and that changes things. There's a lot of outs for Russ to get home in that division with that team. So I wouldn't just be bailing yet. But if the position is right, like, would you like if we had the same matchup going into this week? Would you go? Would you go Russ versus Houston, or would you go Goff versus Washington? They got to play the game again. I think I'd still go Russ.
I'd still go Russ.
I'm still go Russ most time.
The thing is, like, there's just one more thing to add to that. Like Johnny alluded to, half the season he does good, half the season he doesn't. Don't drop him just in case he's going to hit you for those playoff runs. To win
and even if you got to end up benching him and he goes off on your bench, at least an opponent in the playoffs and the playoff stretch didn't have Russ as well.
So
unless you can get some good value for him.
The Broncos play the 49ers this weekend. And Detroit plays the Vikings.
So
the Vikings.
Would you play golf?
This weekend I'd play golf.
You're gonna play golf?
Yes.
I would.
So Russ on Sunday night? Oh man. What if we see another debacle out of that team and the coaching staff on Sunday night? I'm kind of praying for it. But speaking of praying, Mr. Miyagi says, Fantasy Jesus, please pray for Kyle Pitts. So me and Donnie will be quiet. Johnny, say a prayer for Kyle Pitts, please.
Kyle Pitts, we're so grateful that you are, a unicorn. But you haven't been acting like that for much of your career. If you could please, turn it around, that'd be great. Much appreciated. The Fantasy Whisperers, a.k.a. mostly Mr. Miyagi.
I mean, you prayed to Kyle Pitts, but that's fine. We'll work with that. Kyle Pitts is your God. That's fine.
No,
let's see.
Extreme. I prayed that he turns them around.
Yeah, well, you didn't say God or amen, but that's all right. That's fine. That's all good. Extreme Kane.
You guys were supposed to say it.
Well, we were just praying with you.
He's just praying to himself.
Yeah, I guess he is just praying to himself. Yeah. Extreme Kane says, I'm in a 22-man league. Can you help me with targets? Should I trade for QB Tua, running back Wilson, Swift, wide receiver Judy, Nico, tight end? Is this his team?
That's his team, and he's asking who
targets. Okay, so he's got Tua, he's got Jeff Wilson, DeAndre Swift, Jerry Judy, Nico Collins, Mark Andrews, flexes Ashton Doolin, benches Kenyon Drake, Mostert, D-Hop, Moss, Jennings, Tony, Elijah Mitchell. This is hard without knowing who else you have, but if there is a way for you to trade to
sell
at
high,
his ceiling,
someone's gonna chase those points, 6 touchdowns.
I'm trying to see who else he has he can trade high on.
I know some of the Mostert maybe you can throw in as a throw-in, and then because Mostert actually had a pretty solid game, and then
it looks like
you might need to hold. And
so
you might need to hold a little bit. He definitely needs a little bit. 22-man league though, this isn't a bad team for 22-man.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's true. And he has Hop coming back.
Like if it's a 22-man league, you might just want to stay put. You've got a little bit of.
On the first blow up Moss game, Zack, if that's Zack Moss on the first blow up Zack Moss game, I'm trading him. Or as soon as he gets,
Tony as well might be an interesting one if you stash and he blows up and you could trade him out to get some better.
Or when Zack Moss gets traded at the trade deadline.
Alex McBucket says, should I trade Patterson and DJ Moore for Joe Mixon? If you can get this deal done, do it. Yes, absolutely. I would do this deal. Joe Mixon's usage has been great. His targets have been good. That was our question coming in. I know the line looks a little shaky. I think Cincinnati will end up getting it right. They're just going through a little bit of a rough spot, but I love Mixon's usage. And Patterson kind of usage went to a little bit of a crappy situation with Algier active, so I'd be going to get Mixon for sure.
Yeah, I would do this.
It's week 3. You're giving up too much. What's he giving up? No. You got to do that deal.
No, you try to you make moves for superstars like that.
Yeah, exactly. What up? I give up Lenny, Carter, and Pittman. I get CMC and Cooks. Who wins? Lenny, Carter, and Pittman.
I think they win.
I don't
is
know.
Brandon?
He gets CMC and Brandon Cooks. Yeah.
I think I'd rather have Lenny and Pittman and Carter. Pittman's just it's close.
I might lean the CMC side, but I understand that people want to go with Lenny.
Pittman. I mean, if Pittman's out for an extended amount of time, then it's like Lenny.
They said they think he is going to play again, but that's part of what this deal is doing. Somebody's trying to go and get Pittman now.
They thought they were going to be.
But honestly, I think Ryan. Yeah, I think I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I'd go the CMC side, but I'm outvoted 2-3. So.
Well, no. I'm just saying.
No, it's fine.
Super close.
It's super close.
CMC is by far, when healthy, the best.
1-2. Yeah. He is healthy. The problem has been, honestly, Baker Mayfield has been the problem. This offense has not looked very good. So
yeah,
we'll see if that can turn around though.
He was targeting
maybe
Smith over everyone.
Leave it to Baker to target the wrong person.
I know, right? All the time.
Yeah. Would you drop Robbie Anderson for Doolin?
Yes,
I'd do that. Yeah, I think the upside. Doolin has a shot now to be, especially if Pittman misses time, to be a big part of this offense.
Well, if he keeps,
he's explosive.
Be the number 2 wide receiver, and we already know what that kind of action brings, baby.
About that action, boss.
Yeah. What's up?
What up, Albert? How's it going, brother? Hey, Johnny. Remember that 1 week last year when Tony was good, and you called it? Do you remember that?
Yeah. No.
Andre Silva says, what about DJ Shark, player to drop? I'd be okay dropping DJ Shark, especially for like a Garrett Wilson this week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I'd even drop, depending on where Gallup's at, I might even drop DJ Shark for like a Noah Brown, Jakobi Meyers, some of these guys that are out there, I think.
Yeah.
I just can't see Goff actually connect with that guy, dude. Like, it's unreal.
Last week, and he dropped a goose egg. And I started him in 2 leagues, and I'm like just dying.
I had a guy, shout out to Derek O'Toole with You Go and Learn Today League, started DJ Shark against me over Rashad Bateman. And your boy got the win, baby.
Yeah,
Down bad.
I bet
Who would have picked any of those guys? Which guy? Which guys? I don't know.
What? I don't
know. Maybe we're just a little bit too behind. Gus Ramos says, awesome week 2, a 64-point comeback. Diggs and Bills defense.
Nice.
Diggs went ballistic. Good job, Gus.
That was one.
And that Bills defense and that Bucks defense this week.
Jersey J saying, I won my 2,500 Superflex league by 1 point. Thank you, AJ Brown. Pray for no stat corrections. Good job, Jersey J.
Exactly, no stat corrections.
Mr. Miyagi says, I have Tom Brady. I'm putting $5. I'm pulling $5 out of my 187 left in my 200 budget for Tua.
Just $5?
If I don't get him, I'll stream Goff. So he's not sold on the upside. He's going to go with Goff.
Wow.
Goff is Jersey J's. Yeah. Goff is the man. Tag it. So everybody's in on Goff in the chat. We'll see how long that lasts for everybody. One good game.
Another week.
This is Death by Rona. Would you buy white or red Crocs? I'd probably rock white over red. I don't think
I'm rocking the red.
I would do
Nemo Ladies says, yo, Whisper Nation strong, the beard, the smile, the jawline. We gotta fill in for the smile today with Donnie Tubbs. Give him a good smile there, Donnie. There he is. That teeth whitening paying off, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yo, I'm telling you, it's needed.
Looks good. Don says, trying to get tickets for the Jags at Philly, $185 each for nosebleed seats. Anybody got tickets to sell? Anybody can help Don out? Let her know. Link up.
Yeah, let her know.
Nemo Lady says, Richie James worth a stash, 59% snap share, has averaged 5 catches and 50 yards a game so far. The biggest piece of this is that he should see some action while Cooper Rush is the quarterback because they have some chemistry. They have a relationship. They played on the twos together in the offseason. Jim Nance was talking about it on the broadcast quite a bit. So he's got something going on there.
It's Daniel Jones.
Oh, Richie James.
Yeah,
I'm
Richie
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about Noah Brown. Thank you, Donnie.
Yeah.
Richie James worth a stash. I would not stash Richie James. I would go for Sterling Shepard if he's.
I watched that game extensively for.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Reasons
Donnie.
I can't talk about.
Educate us.
It seemed like Richie James was being targeted almost every drive, every play. I would do a stash. Honestly, he looks
okay.
He didn't look that amazingly but Daniel Jones loves him, so I think I would stash him.
Johnny, is Algier worth a roster stash with Williams hurt?
Yes. Just because running backs and it's a stash, why not? If you have the spot.
Jersey J says, "What stat correction?" I'm just saying there may not be any, but just we're praying for none of them.
For no stat correction.
Rob Navarro says, in PPR, how long do I hang on to Pacheco and Romeo Dubs? Well, it just depends on what you're going to go get. Like you got to tell me what you're trying to get here, Rob. You can drop Dubs.
Yeah, you can drop Dubs.
And in some places you could drop Pacheco. The only thing is he is worth a stash. I do think McKinnon becomes the backup first if CH goes down, but Pacheco can kind of do both, especially the goal line work, which could make him a lot more valuable. But we've already seen they like McKinnon, especially pass catching in the goal line in the red zone. Yeah. So that's definitely something he'd get the.
I would hang on to Pacheco. I mean, Pacheco's going to take about 6 weeks before we see, but yeah, he's
going to take about 18 weeks before he actually does anything for fantasy.
Not dropping him in Dynasty ever.
Well, yeah, you definitely keep him.
Yeah, in redraft, I'd wait a few more weeks just to see if you really need to drop him for some points.
I mean, he's third in line right now. We see that. McKinnon's the guy they're using ahead.
But he looks good though.
Yeah, I mean, he looks all right. He missed a block on that Thursday night game. CH looks the best of the three. Nemo ladies, would you trade Mark Andrews, Hunt, and A-Rob for Dalvin and Renfrow? Mark Andrews, Kareem Hunt, and Allen Robinson for Dalvin and Renfrow. I do think Dalvin's a buy low. If you had another tight end, I might be interested in doing this. But, man, Andrews looks so good.
Who's your other tight end?
That's a big no for me. Yeah, that's a big no.
I would do it if the other tight end is
if you had I don't know if you
or
did this.
Everett, or Everett.
Maybe even a Conklin or a Knox. Maybe you go get one and you do this deal. Maybe you can pull Hunt or A-Rob out of the deal, and just get Dalvin, no Renfrow back, something like that.
Oh, Kelsey.
Your other tight end is Kelsey, then absolutely do that deal.
I would do this deal.
Actually, try to trade Kelsey and keep Andrews. That would be my preference.
Yeah.
I just think with age and with the other weapons in the offense, I think I'd trade Kelsey instead.
I'm with that.
I got Cook for Bateman. I forgot to tell you this. You got Dalvin Cook for Rashad Bateman. That's a good deal. That's a really nice deal. Wow. Don says, love me some Trevor Lawrence. Rona calls him Hollywood because of his hair flip. Yeah, he definitely looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. That's for sure. Sunshine. All right, some of the honorable mentions that we had here, we didn't get into all of them. J.D. McKissick, Jerick McKinnon. We talked about Pacheco. I think Jerick McKinnon's an interesting guy to look at as a stash as well, especially if you have CEH and you play in PPR because he's going to get the pass-catching work there. At wide receiver, Jakobi Meyers, Nelson Aguilar, Sterling Shepard, and Johnny's boy Greg the Torch Dortch.
Yeah.
I think as long as Rondale Moore's out, Dortch is going to be usable in deeper formats. So that's definitely something.
They like him a lot.
And then on the tight ends, obviously John mentioned Tyler Conklin, but we have Evan Ingram and Tyler Higby still there as honorable mentions. Donnie, are you buying that the Higby stuff will last, or do you think it's going to be a little bit of trapdoory? I mean, honestly, the line didn't look that great again, so I think it might be something that plays into it. He's not like PPR.
Tight ends aren't hitting, like we said. Like Everett was the only one, and I think Higby maybe is 2A in that discussion. So I'm sticking with him. I'm rolling every week.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw the target market share last year. He did have this. He was number one in red area targets. He just didn't catch a lot, and we saw him drop another touchdown. So yeah, Higby is probably one of the safer ones, and then you're just hoping for a touchdown. So
and then lastly,
I was taking commit over all those guys.
I'm so glad I didn't have any commit. Man.
Killing me.
I'm so glad I didn't drop Tyler Higby in Dynasty. And
so Jared Goff, Marcus Mariota, the last couple honorable mentions. We've talked extensively about Goff because Jersey J won't let it die, but he does say, great show. Love you guys. We love you too, Jersey J. Yeah. The last thing I'll just say about Marcus Mariota, as long as he's the starter, I think, especially in Superflex leagues, I think he's going to be a decent play if you lost Trey Lance, if you lost Dak in a Superflex league and you need some depth. He could definitely be a guy you could pick up.
Yeah.
Emo Lady says, did you have something there, Johnny? Sorry.
No, I Mariota looks good.
Yeah. Decent enough. I mean, just to get the job done as your QB
right.
too. Yeah. Add Duvernay. He's a walking PPR machine, even on limited targets. What I love about Duvernay, I mean, I don't know if he's a walking PPR machine, but he is going to swing some weeks for you in deeper leagues because he's playing kind of that deep role for them. And especially if you get points for kickoff, he took that one to the house to start that game. So he's definitely a decent ad.
That's a smart.
Andrew says Gerald Everett or Garrett Wilson is my number one priority. Well, if you need wide receiver, it'd be Garrett Wilson for me. Here's the thing. I understand the cloud is over Garrett Wilson coming back in this office. I know Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, but we don't see this often where a number one like a first round talent goes to a team. You know, he's like he's a first round talent. He was a lot of people's number one wide receiver in this class.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's a first round talent. And a lot of people, I know John said they're not going to throw like this every week. What's to say they aren't? Like, they're the Jets. They could be coming back in a lot of games. And the defense should be better. I get that. And like he said, they went from slow to very pass happy. But I just think Garrett Wilson has league winning upside. I don't know if Everett does. Everett's going to be a consistent, like, late round tight end that you can start. Maybe, you know, what's the ceiling? Like top 10, top 8, you know, but like, I don't know if he's going to be like Garrett Wilson could probably finish this year as a pretty good wide receiver too, if all things go well. And I think that could end up winning you some leagues.
Yeah.
I would really like to know who Andrew's tight end is, because, you know, if
absolutely
he's not a shitty one, like, then I would maybe go
like
Jared.
Cole Kmet.
Yeah, if he has honestly, for example, like, let's say he's got Cole Kmet, but his wide receivers are like, you know, Allen Robinson, maybe you got Diggs or Debo or someone like that, and then his third is like, I don't know, an Alan Lazard or something like that. Then I would probably go tight end over. Oh, he got Schultz. Ooh, yeah. See,
Schultz might play through that.
Yeah,
because it's the same. They're saying it's the same injury as Zeke. They're not even sure if he's going to miss time. But who's your wide receivers though? That's the question, because you could go and stream tight end guys. Like, we can go and get Tyler Conklin.
True.
We can, you know, and like, maybe you won't get as much of the Everett points, right? But you'll get enough. My flex right now is AJ Dillon or Godwin. See Godwin hurt, banged up. I think getting Wilson would be good for you here. I need more though. I can't just AJ Dillon and Godwin doesn't tell me kind of your wide receiver depth.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
if Godwin is your flex, then you probably have pretty good wide receivers.
Yeah. So Garrett, unless you need a tight end, Andrew, which he said Schultz. But like, again, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Allen comes back and then, you know, like Everett has some 2 bad weeks. You know what I mean? Or you know, like, I just think like that's still in
Debo, Higgins, Mooney, Godwin. Yeah, bro, you're never gonna start. I would go Everett, man, because you're never gonna start Wilson as good as we think that he could be. And I do think I touted him as one of the best wide receivers in this class, right? But you're never gonna be able to fully convince yourself to start Wilson over T. Higgins or Godwin
or Debo.
Godwin
when he's healthy.
You could, even if Schultz is quote unquote healthy.
Yeah,
which is never
that's 100%. True. That's true. I'll seed this one, but also, are you 0-2? Are you 2-0 or 0-2?
Yeah,
you starting
also,
strong too.
Is it Bob or is it Wob that you? Because you can if
you
it's
could get both, baby.
Yeah.
No, I think he said number one priority. Yeah, as number one. He's got a number one priority.
I would go Everett on it. That's my opinion. With your roster the way it is, I would go Everett.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but I feel it. I'm still in on the Garrett Wilson for sure. Which side is better, Kelsey and Najee for Pitts and Mixon?
Pitts and Mixon.
Man,
I think I'm Kelsey and Najee.
Yeah. I guess I'm buying the upside of Pitts. Najee does not look good in the offense.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, Andrew's 0-2. Andrew, get the tight end.
What do we think here? Are we?
Half PPR. What percent?
Yeah, what percent of FOB and half point PPR for Garrett Wilson? Drop Isaiah McKenzie. I would definitely drop McKenzie for Garrett Wilson. And what percentage of your FOB?
20%.
So 21%. Shout out to Dwayne McFarland. Utilization report said 50+% is what he would spend FOB on Garrett Wilson.
Whoa!
And I think it's really.
Vic Travis going for Garrett Wilson and Tua in the same night. That's what he's getting all this $5 for.
So I think, well, and again, I'm gonna say it again. Even in week 1, when he played limited snaps, he demanded targets. Then they ramped his snaps up and he scored 2 touchdowns on demanding targets. What happens when he's their full-time player? And I know Elijah Moore's good, but Garrett Wilson could be better, and he should be based on the draft capital. So, I mean, I don't know.
Zack Wilson comes back, who's he going to focus on? That's
the problem with Garrett Wilson. That's the problem that I can't wrap my head around. Is like when Wilson comes back, what happens? What we really need is the Jets to keep winning so that they don't bring Wilson back and they let Joe Flacco run it.
Yep.
I think in that case, I would go a little bit less than 50% shoot. I like what Johnny said, 20 to 30% fob, I think is what I would be willing to spend, especially if you need wide receiver. 0-2, we said that. I got to replace Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds down bad right now. Raheem Mostert taking over as 1A. Not looking great.
No.
I told you, great 7th round pick, in Dynasty.
Bungalow Joe, great name. Need help. Just got offered 3 different trades. Which one should I take? Trade away Lamar for St. Brown, trade away Tua for CD, or Tua and Deontay for St. Brown? Wait. I'd go Tua and Deontay for St. Brown.
Tua, Deontay for
you could keep Lamar, and you get absolutely do that deal.
Yeah,
100%.
Yep. And we talked about it at the top of the show, Bungalow Joe, and we asked John.
Game winner.
Although
Tua for CD is nice, but I like St. Brown better than CD the rest of the season now. I mean, there's just nothing you can tell me that Amon-Ra St. Brown's a wide receiver 1 going forward. Like,
wait, is this Dynasty or just a redraft?
If it's redraft, I'm going St. Brown. If it's Dynasty, trade Tua for CD.
Yeah, that's
how
right.
I go, for sure. All right, Whisper Nation, that does it. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for good luck on waivers tonight. We hope you get the guy that you need. For Donnie Tubbs, for Johnny Game Time Hicks, for Austin's here, I'm Big Travie. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace. You stuck through the whole TFW live show. Congratulations. Big Travie couldn't even do that. Well, if you like what you saw, make sure you hit subscribe. If you want more videos from the Fantasy Whisperers,